Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're here to break down the Indianapolis Cup Series race that takes place on Sunday, July 5th for DraftKings and FanDuel. I'm going to go over the top plays on the slate, the top value plays, the top plays to avoid, what are the top tier drivers you should play. If you want to check out my video for lineup construction strategies, I'll link it up in the corner. I made that video yesterday. I think it's very important to see how your lineup should look. I don't think you should just solely go based off what quote-unquote are the best plays. I think you should try to make a lineup that has potential to win a GPP if that's what you're going for. If you're going for cash, it's a little different, obviously. If you're new here, leave a like, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, tell me how I'm doing, how the videos are going, turn on that notification bell. All those things really help me grow the channel and get bigger on here. We're almost at 100 subscribers, so that's really nice. Hopefully we'll get there this weekend. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon and get way more content than just this YouTube video, you can subscribe to there. I'll put the link in the description. You'll get this spreadsheet where it has all the driver stats for a bunch of different types of stats. Then it has team stats for a bunch of different types of stats. And then if we have race where there's like night and day driver splits, that'll be in here too. As long as well with like rankings for all the stats. And then I also put in what each driver, how many points each driver needs to pay off their salary for 5x, 6x, 7x, 8x, 9x, 10x for DraftKings and FanDuel. Then I have projections for both DraftKings and FanDuel as well, along with an article where I go through maybe a little bit of more depth than I am in the video on each play. I also have my rankings but based on salary, I'll rank the drivers on what's the best in each price range, along with my cash score for. So if you want all that, it's on the Patreon in the description below. If you want to follow me on social media, my Twitter is @DFSNateLane and my Instagram is @NateLane_. I'll also put those in the descriptions. But yeah, I think that's really all I got. And here we go. All right, so up first, this is the second week in a row Christopher Bell is the most expensive driver on DraftKings. And I mean, I guess I understand why. I mean, I sort of knew once I saw 35th, he was going to be the most expensive player on DraftKings again, because that's what they did last week. And I mean, he's just not like, he needs like a top 5 to really pay up that salary. I mean, he really only needs like a top 10 to 5 exit. And if you're playing cash, I think Bell's okay. But if you're playing a tournament, like Christopher Bell needs another top 5 like he did last week, and I still can't believe he got a top 5 at Pocono. That was wild. I don't expect that to happen again. It's not like he's been spectacularly great or anything this year. I mean, that was literally his career high Cup Series finish for a reason. I think the best stats to look at for Christopher Bell is in the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 14.5 and an average position of 19.25. So, and I mean, his driver rating is only 72.86, and that's excluding Talladega. So, I mean, it's not like he's been running up inside the top 5 where you need him to really finish to pay off that salary. So, I think he's just a hard play for me to want to play, especially when I just pay $500 less for Redick, which we'll talk about in a second. If you're playing cash, I think it's okay. I don't think he's the best play in the world, but I mean, he does have like tops and upside. He should definitely finish inside the top 20. So, all right, next we have Kevin Harvick at 11,000 on DraftKings and 14,200 on FanDuel. Oh, Christopher Bell on FanDuel though is only 8,400, and that's a really good play. I mean, it's kind of like almost a lock button. FanDuel's so based on place differential, the lap led and fastest laps aren't nearly as big of a deal, and he's got so much place differential upside, and he's only 8,400. So on FanDuel, I think he is a very good play. But yeah, Kevin Harvick at 11,000 on DraftKings and 14,200 on FanDuel. Very expensive on FanDuel, but I mean, it's worth it. Harvick's been top 2 driver so far this year. Him and Hamlin have easily been the best 2 drivers this year. And I mean, Harvick's just been great at Indianapolis and tracks like Indianapolis. He's an average finish of 2.5 at Indy, which is the 3rd best in the series. And he has the 2nd best average finish at flat tracks, the 4th best average finish at shallow tracks, and the 3rd best average finish at super speedways. And then he has the best average position at Indianapolis, flat, shallow, and super speedway tracks. So that really shows me that Harvick's going to be up front the whole race. And he's totally someone I think could lead a ton of laps. I mean, we can just go look at the lap sled. Over the last years, he has 140 lap sled at Indianapolis, and he has the 2nd most lap sled combined at all the types of tracks, only behind Kyle Busch. So Harvick, I mean, looks like just a great driver to lead laps. Now, if you watch my other video, you will see that most of the drivers who lead a ton of laps all start inside the top 5, and Harvick starts 11th. So there's a little disadvantage there, but I just think that it doesn't really. I think Harvick shouldn't have a hard time getting to the front, and he won't lead the early laps. But I think towards the end of the race, you could totally see him being a driver who leads most laps and win this thing. I mean, he's just been so fast this year, and it's a track that caters to him. In the last 5 races, Harvick's also been running really well. He has the average finish of 4.75, which is the best in the field, and he has an average position at 8, which I believe is 2nd best, only to Truex. So he's been running really well in 179 lap sled. He's coming off a win in the first race of Pocono last week. So everything's been running really well for Kevin Harvick. He looks like an absolute great play. I expect him to be highly owned. It's just because he's so good. He starts 11th. He's more to his price. So I'm willing to pay him at that price. There's enough value down low that we are able to fit Harvick in with probably no big deal. So I really like Kevin Harvick. Next we have Chase Elliott, 10,700 on DraftKings, 11,200 on FanDuel. He starts 10th. Chase Elliott, I just think there's ways to avoid him. Especially when I can just pay $300 more for Kevin Harvick. He hasn't been the best in Indianapolis. He's the 13th best average finish here, 6th best average finish at flat tracks, 10th best at shallow, and 11th best super speedways. Just like the types of tracks that this is, like Pocono, Indianapolis, just haven't been Chase's go-to tracks. They haven't been great tracks for him. We saw him at Pocono last week and didn't run well in either race. So he's just not been all that great here. And he was doing really well about a month ago in the series, but recently he just hasn't been running the same as he was. He's still running good. Don't get me wrong, he's still probably a top 5 driver right now, but he has an average finish at 8.8 in the last 5 races, and average position at 8.6 and only 54 laps led. So at that price, you need Chase Elliott really to lead laps, and I don't think he's not in a prime position to lead laps in my opinion, and this isn't really a track that suits him, that is a great track for him, and it's not like he's been leading a ton of laps recently. So I don't feel like Chase Elliott's a great play. I think he's going to be low owned though, and if you do want to pivot off Harvick, I think he is the guy to go to. He should be low owned, and if that's what you're going for, we'll go with that. But I sort of, in my opinion, would just rather play lower owned guys farther down the salary cap and just play Harvick. So up next we have Kyle Busch, 10,400 on DraftKings, 13,000 on FanDuel, starts 7th. Kyle Busch is an interesting one, man. He's just, he's been so dominant in this series for years, and it's just been a weird year for him, and I really do think it has something to do with him not being able to practice. We saw it at Pocono last week. The first race he did alright, and in the second race, he wrecked out and finished really bad, but he was running up in the top 3 the whole race. He was a contender to win, and I think he probably would have won that race in all honesty. He was doing really well, and it's just that shows. But here we are again with no practice for Kyle Busch. Indianapolis hasn't been the best track for him, only the 9th best average finish, but tracks similar to Indianapolis have been really good. We just talked about Pocono last week. If you watched that video, he's great there. He has the best average finish at flat tracks, 3rd best at shallow, and best at super speedways. So he's been really, really good at tracks that are very similar to Indianapolis. I think he has a lot of upside here, but it's just not. I just don't think he's someone I want to go to this week. I've been going to Kyle Busch all year. It's just other than Bristol, it just has not really worked out. He just hasn't been leading laps, and that's what you need at that salary. And you look at in the last 5 races, Kyle Busch only has 11 laps led in the last 5 races. That's just not like Kyle Busch. And his average position of 8th and average finish at 8th and average position at 10.75, they're good, but they're not anything that's really special. And for his expensive price point, which is 10,400. I don't want to play that. Again, I'd just rather play Harvick. And honestly, I think I might rather play Chase Elliott because he has more place differential upside, where Kyle Busch only starts 7th. So, I think he's a fine play, and I understand playing him. I just don't know if I'm really going to be going there this week. And it might burn me, but this will be the week that Kyle Busch finally breaks out of that, slump, if you want to call it. He just dominates and wins, but I'll take my losses there. Up next, we have Denny Hamlin, 10,100 on DraftKings, 13,700 on FanDuel, starting 6th. I think Hamlin's a great play. He has 3 wins since we come back from Corona, and he has been doing fantastic. He's probably been the best driver this year. It's either him or Harvick. They've for sure been the best too, in my opinion. But this is a good track for Hamlin too. 5th best average finish at Indianapolis. He has the 3rd best average finish at flat tracks, 2nd best at shallows, and 4th at super speedways. So he's been running really well at tracks like this. At this track, laps led, he only has 37 laps led in the last 2 years, but that's still 2nd most. So that shows you that he can lead laps. And this year in the last 5 races, he's been leading a ton of laps. He comes in with 196 laps led in the last 5 races. So Hamlin's been in really, really good form. I really like him this week. The one thing I will say about Hamlin is, like I said, past data tells me that the most laps led come from guys starting inside the top 5, and Hamlin does start 6th, but there's really only one spot outside of the top 5, so it shouldn't really be that too big of a deal. And the guys he's got to get past are like Eric Almirola, who he should be better than Jimmie Johnson, he probably should be better than Alex Bowman, same thing, and then Kurt Busch. And then there's Logano, who probably will lead the most laps this race, but I'm not saying Hamlin's going to lead the most laps, but I think he's going to lead a good chunk of them, and I fully expect him to be up there contending for a win at the end of the race. Up next, we have Brad Keselowski, 9,800 on DraftKings, 11,400 on FanDuel, starting 9th. Keselowski, I mean, in the last 2 years, he has 1 wreck and 1 win, so those are why his numbers look like that for Indianapolis, but he's been really good here. He's been really good at Pocono, the track very similar to it. His 5th best average finish at flat tracks, 5th best average finish at shallow tracks, and 5th best average finish at super speedways. So he's been very, very consistent at these tracks, running very, very well. In the last 5 races, Keselowski has an average finish at 8.4, an average position of 11.4, and 24 laps led. I think he's fine. The upside doesn't feel as there for me as someone like, especially like Denny Hamlin or even Truex. He's never really been a guy who leads a ton of laps. And I mean, there's definitely an upside. It's still Brad Keselowski. He's just not someone I feel like I really want to put a ton of ownership on. But I'm going to, of course, I'm going to play some shares of Brad Keselowski because he has the upside to win the race and he has upside, even to lead laps. But I think if you can just go down 200 more to like Truex or 300 more to Hamlin, I think there's more upside to lead last. You're only playing one lineup. I don't know if I'd play Keselowski if you're mass entering a tournament. Yeah, I think Keselowski is a very good play. He's going to be lower owned than all these guys, so I think he's fine. He's got good place differential upside. If he wins the race and leads like the last 20 laps, he's going to be huge. You're going to need him in your lineup. Even if he wins the race and he leads like 5 laps, you're probably still going to need him in your lineup to win. Depends on how everything else goes, but for the most part, you probably will. So, I think he's a good play. I just don't think he's, like, the best play or anything. Martin Truex Jr., 9,600 on DraftKings, 11,800 on FanDuel, starts 8th. So, Truex in the past 2 years has wrecked in both races. So, that's not good. It's not something you want to look for. But, to be fair, I know he was up in the front for both those races when he got caught up in a wreck. 2 years ago, he was in first place when he wrecked. Or he's either in first or second. Him and Kyle Busch wrecked on the restart, and what you going to do about that? But at the flat tracks, he's been good. The 4th best average finish. He has the 9th best average finish at shallow tracks and his 6th best average finish at super speedways. He's been very good at these types of tracks. Not anything like his best tracks or anything, but he's been good. He does have 1,333 laps led at flat tracks over the last 2 years, so that's good. But 0 Indianapolis does scare me a little bit. But I think he's good play. He has decent place differential upside. He's been running well, way better recently than he started out the year. I think Brad Keselowski, Truex, and Blaney are going to be very, very, I don't know about very low owned, but compared to Hamlin and Logano, they're going to be very low owned. And if one of those guys fails and you pivot to Keselowski or Truex or Blaney and they win the race or something, that's going to be a huge, huge pivot that you're going to need to make. So I think playing Truex is very good. I think Truex and Keselowski are very good, like, lower-owned options. I don't think they're the best play. I think there's way less pass to them being a higher-scoring driver outside of, like, other than, instead of, like, Harvick, Hamlin, and Logano, who I think have the most upside in the field. But they still have the upside, and it's not like it can't happen. Like, they both have wins this year. Keselowski is 2. He led a bunch of laps at Darlington. Truex led a bunch of laps at Charlotte. So, it's not like... And Martinsville. So, it's not like this can't happen, It's just... I think they're both very, very solid options. I'm only playing one lineup. I'm only playing cash. I'm not playing those guys, but if I'm playing a bunch of GPP lineups, yeah, I'm pivoting off some Hamlin to Keselowski and Truex. Next, we have Ryan Blaney, who I'm really not as big on as Truex and Keselowski, other than the fact I just think he's going to be low-owned, and he starts 12th, so there's more place differential upside. But Indianapolis and these tracks as a whole haven't been so great to him. He has 10th best average finish at Indianapolis, 9th best average finish at flat tracks, 11th best average finish at shallow tracks, and 10th best average finish at super speedways. Laps led for Ryan Blaney, he does have 20 laps led here in Indianapolis, so that does show me that he can lead laps, but it's like he's not like same thing with like Chase Elliott earlier, he's not in a prime starting position to lead laps. Like most of the guys are going to lead laps, are going to start in the top 5 and then probably view like the 8 range. 12 is a tough spot to get. It's a track that it's not a lot of passes are going to happen. And we saw him race at Pocono last week, which is very similar, and he really didn't do that well. It was disappointing for me, but he didn't do well. He has an average finish of 8.6 in the last 5, and an average position of 9.2 in the last 5, and 127 laps led in the last 5. But those are all from Miami, Martinsville, and then the one other track. Like those 3 coming into Pocono, he had like an average finish of like 3 in the last 5 races, and now that's gone up obviously because Pocono wasn't good to him. I just don't really think Blaney has. He's someone that, like, I guess if he finishes, like, first or second, doesn't lead a bunch of laps, you might really need him. But at his price point, you probably need him to lead laps. I don't hate going to him. I probably get a little bit of Blaney. He's just not my favorite play this weekend. Next we have Joey Logano at 9,200 on DraftKings and 12,500 on FanDuel, and he starts on the pole. Now, Joey Logano, yeah, he's going to be chalky. I mean, he's 9,200 and he's Joey Logano, and I mean, it's just the finishes recently haven't shown what he's been doing. I mean, both Pocono races, he had a tire issue, which, I mean, he finished like 36 or something like that, and then in the second Pocono race, he was running up high the whole race, and then he had a penalty that cost him. I think he finished in the 20s or something like that. So Logano's been like running well. He's just had some bad luck that's cost him some worse finishes. He does have the 8th best average finish at Indianapolis, 7th best at flat tracks, 12th best at shallow tracks, and 6th best at super speedways. He has good average running positions as well. And laps led at Indianapolis haven't been the best. Only 11 laps led at Indy over the past 2 years, which is a little scary for me. But he does have 857 flat tracks, which does help out things a lot. And 239 super speedways, which both of those are solid, very solid numbers. Up next, or in the last 5 races, Logano also has the most laps led in NASCAR. So that more than anything really pushes me to think, oh, Logano's fine. He should get out front and lead lap. He's clean air at Indianapolis is so important. He's got the lane that he's going to want on the inside. I think he's going to have his lane choice. So whichever lane he wants that he's going to want to get, he's going to get. I mean, the guys around him, yeah, Kurt Busch has been good, and Bowman's been fast, but like I just don't think they're going to pass Logano early. Penske's been so fast this year. As a whole team, they've been the fastest team. Maybe not individually the fastest car, but they've been the fastest team. And I just don't expect that to change. I just expect them to get out front. Penske's had success here in the past with Keselowski winning races here, so I just don't see any reason why that would change. I think the starting on the pole position is very good for Joey Logano, and I think he should lead a bunch of laps early. I'm not saying he's going to win the race. He's not my pick to win, but the first stage, at least he should lead, and then maybe even more after that if he can keep his track position. So yeah, I like Joey Logano a good bit. He's going to be really chalky, but that's chalk I want to play. Like, there's some chalk that I don't really always want to play, but Joey Logano chalk this week, I want to play it. Up next, we have Clint Bowyer, 9,000, starting 22nd, 9,500 on FanDuel. I think Boyer's actually a pretty good play here. I think people are going to look to just play 200 more for Logano with the lap left side. Yeah, that's great, but you could just pair these guys together in all honesty. Clint Bowyer has the 6th best average finish in Indianapolis in the last 2 years, the 8th best at flat tracks, the 7th best at shallows, and the 8th best at super speedways. So yeah, he's run good here, and he's tied for the best average position at Indianapolis with Harvick. He's going to have pretty much the same setup as Kevin Harvick, more than likely. They're teammates. They've been running, seems like, similar setups this year. He's been pretty fast this year. I mean, it's Clint Bowyer. He's not great or anything, but I mean, he has the top 10 upside, and he has sneaky top 5 upside this race. So I mean, he starts 22nd. There's a lot of place differential points there. I like it so much better than like Christopher Bell with even more place differential, but just so much more expensive. I think that's a good place to go. I think if he gets in the top 10, if he gets in the top 5 especially, you'll need him to win a tournament. But even in the top 10, you should have a very good day if Clint Bowyer finishes inside that top 10. Next, we have William Byron's 8,700 on DraftKings, 10,000 on FanDuel, starting 18th. I like William Byron a good bit this week as well because Indy, again, very similar to Pocono last week, and Pocono's a track that William Byron's had success at. And, I mean, he's had success here, too. He's got the 12th best average finish at Indianapolis, which isn't, fantastic, but if you look at Indianapolis and Pocono combined, which those are the only 2 shallow tracks, he has the 8th best in the field. And, he's been running well this year. He started out the season a little rough, but recently he's been doing better. He has an average finish of 9.5 in the last 5 races, an average position of 12.75. So, and Hendricks looked fast this year. So, I mean, I don't see any real reason to count Byron out. He's, again, someone who has legit top 10 upside for sure, and he has sneaky top 5 upside. And I mean, who knows? Byron's still looking for that first win. Maybe it comes to Indy. There's been a lot of drivers over the years who have won at Indianapolis. You're like, So, William Byron would not shock me to see him up in that top 5 at the end of that race. All right, next we have Jimmie Johnson, 8,500 on DraftKings, 9,000 on FanDuel, starting 4th. Jimmie Johnson's going to be the lowest owned driver, honestly. I mean, no one's playing him starting 4th place for 8,500, and I don't blame him. But you know what? I think Jimmie Johnson, I mean, his numbers don't look great here for the past few years, but none of his numbers at any track look great for the past few years. This year he's been running better. Recently, not as much, but he still had a very good start to the season. I mean, the average finish in the last race is 14th, an average position of 15.4. But let's not forget, Jimmie Johnson's 4 wins here in his entire Cup career, and he needs, everyone wants him to get a win this year before he retires. And I mean, what better place than a track he's been so good at? It's a historic track. Indianapolis, and he's in that spot, in that prime starting spot to lead a bunch of laps. And even if he doesn't lead a bunch of laps, if Jimmie Johnson hangs around in the top 5 all day, he's going to be a great value play at 8,500. I mean, you're getting a top 5 driver at 8,500. So I think he's, if you want to take a few stabs at him in tournaments, which I probably will, send a lineup or two of Jimmie Johnson, I think that's fine. I don't think he's someone that you're definitely not playing him in cash, and even if you're just playing like single entries or 3 maxes, I don't know if I want to play him. But if you're making a mass entering tournaments, I think Jimmie Johnson's fine to have a few stabs of. Up next, we have Matt DiBenedetto, starting 15th at 8,300 on DraftKings, 8,700 on FanDuel. Matt DiBenedetto, every video, is not someone I really like to look at his past stats for because he's been in nowhere close to as good of equipment as he is this year. But in the last 5 races, Matt DiBenedetto has an average finish of 13th and an average position of 12.4, and I believe he had a top 10 in the second Pocono race. So he's been running very well this year. I mean, he's looked good in new, better equipment. And I don't think people are going to want to play him because I really just think people are going to say $200 less for Erik Jones starting 23rd. Yeah, they're going to play that. I don't think DiBenedetto is going to be highly owned, and he's got top 10 upside. Again, I mean, somebody can sneak inside a top 10, and if he does, it's going to be a good player to have. I mean, it's going to be tough, I feel like, for Matty D to really hit that huge upside to win someone a GPP, but if he gets like 8th place, 7th place, that'll be a really good low-owned player to have. Next is Erik Jones starting 23rd. Finally, DraftKings decided to make him more expensive. 8,100 on DraftKings, 10,600 on FanDuel. I mean, it was crazy when Erik Jones would be 10,000 on FanDuel and 6,000 on DraftKings. I don't know what's going on, but he really never paid off because he always had tire issues or wrecked. But he was always running well before that. Erik Jones, if you see, does have his second best average finish in the last 2 years, but it's only 1 race because last year he wrecked while inside the top 5. But he does have a second place here. This is a track Erik Jones is very good at, and I'm really hoping that. Because DraftKings priced him up this week to 8,100, that people are going to be a little scared to play him because how he's been burning everybody recently. He's been, been the chalk for like the last 4 races, and every race he just like something happens that it doesn't work out for anybody, and he just blows a tire, he wrecks, screws over everybody. So I hope that people are going to get scared off of that. Now I don't really know if people will. I don't think he's going to be like really low owned, but if he's just not like 50% owned anymore, like that would just be great. I'm tired of that. So I think he's a very good play. I think Erik Jones, definite top 10 upside. He has legit top 5 upside, and he has potential to win. I mean, he's had a second place finish here to track like Pocono, where he's also run top 5 in a lot. And I mean, he needs to win a race to lock himself into the playoffs. So I think that this is a track where he excels at, and I could see him getting up front and winning this thing. But I mean, realistically, that's probably not what we're going for here. We're going for a top 5 finish, and if he gets a top 5 starting 23rd, he's going to absolutely smash this hour. And I mean, he's been good here. He has the 6th best average finish at the shallow tracks, which is Indianapolis and Pocono. So it's just a track he succeeds at, and I don't expect anything else to change unless he blows a tire again or wrecks. So next we have Alex Bowman, 8,000 on DraftKings, 10,800 on FanDuel. He's definitely too expensive on FanDuel for me, but on DraftKings, I think he may be worth a shot. He hasn't been good here. I mean, I'm not going to hide that bad average finish. You can see, I mean, really at all these types of tracks, he's not going to look well. And I mean, I may not even play him this week, but he does start 3rd. That's the one thing that I like about him. The fact that he's starting in the 3rd place position, I like that because that's a position where drivers can lead laps. And like Hendrick's been fast this year, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see him like get around Logano for that early lead and lead that first stage. And then if he does that, and then I mean if he leads even more laps after that, like you have a driver at $8,000 on DraftKings who's a dominator. Like that's such a huge value to have, an $8,000 dominator. So I don't hate throwing stabs in there. It's just that he's been so bad here, and he really hasn't been running all that great recently. But his price keeps going down and down and down. Like soon Alex Bowman's gonna be like Erik Jones from a few weeks ago, where, well, I guess really last week, where he's too cheap. And I mean, then it's when everyone's gonna start wanting to play him. And I sort of just want to get ahead of the curve, maybe. And maybe this is the cheapest he's gonna be. So I don't hate him. Again, like Jimmie Johnson, don't play him in cash. Don't play him in like 3 max. But if you're mass entering tournaments, I think Alex Bowman's an okay guy to play. Next we have Matt Kenseth. Oh my god. He's still too expensive. At least he's not in the 8K range anymore, but $7,900 for Matt Kenseth. I know he's starting 21st now. It's not inside the top 12 like it was for a while, or top 16, something like that. But like, I don't even care about his average finish of the stats because that's when he was actually good. Like, let's look at the last 5 races for Matt Kenseth. An average finish of 17.2 and an average position of 19.4. Like, why do I really want to play Matt Kenseth here? I mean, what is really showing me that he's going to hit a massive ceiling where he's going to get like a top 10 or top 5 for me to win anything relatively big? It just don't look like that's going to happen. I mean, he's okay. I mean, if you really want to go there, I mean, I guess he's fine, but I don't know. He's just not someone I'm really interested in that starting spot and at that price. If Matt Kenseth was like just 7,000, then yeah, I think he's more of a shot. But at 7,900, man, it's just too expensive. All right, up next we have Tyler Redick, 7,700 on DraftKings, 8,200 on FanDuel, starting 13th. Redick was doing really well earlier in the year, and I mean the last few weeks it just hasn't been there except for Miami. Miami was fantastic for Redick, but other than that, it hasn't been the best for him. Doesn't have a lot of experience at these types of tracks, and Pocono was just a disaster for him. Wrecked in the first race, and then he had power steering go out on lap 1 in the second race. So, I mean, I just don't even, you can't, that was a race I was hoping to see for someone. There are a few guys in the field that I want to see them do Pocono so I can get a good feel for them for Indy, and Redick was one of them, but I didn't even really get to see him race Pocono because he just wrecked in both races. So that's unfortunate, but he does have an average finish of 12 in the last 5 races, which is solid, but Pocono's not included because he had a 30th and like a 30 and like a 38th, and I didn't want to just like totally ruin his average finish by something he couldn't control, so I just took him out. But before that, he was running good in an average position of 10.66, so he's fine. And I think Tyler Reddick's gonna be someone who goes low owned as well. Like, I think there's a lot of good lower owned options this week, and I think Redick is someone who easily could slip up beside that top 10 and pay up that salary big time and be something you really need to play. Redick is also trending downward like Bowman, where Jones is trending up, where Redick might be cheaper in a few weeks again if he has another bad finish. But I think he can get up inside that top 10. I think he's got the potential. He's got the speed. He's got the talent. So I don't hate Redick this week. He's not like someone I'm like overly excited to play. But if you want to play Tyler Redick, I mean, he's a good low-end option to have with upside. All right, up next is Kurt Busch at 7,500 on DraftKings, 9,200 on FanDuel, starting second. Kurt Busch is an interesting one. Kurt Busch is going to be a boomer bust play this week. He's been good at Indy, 7th best average finish, but like, the problem is, starting second, I don't really care how much you're priced at. You really need, unless you're like in the 6K, you really need to lead laps. And do we think Kurt Busch gets around Logano? I don't think it's impossible. Last week we saw Kurt Busch take the lead on the start of the race, and in the second race we saw him take the lead, starting second. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't against Austin Dillon, who was on the pole. But Kurt Busch led a bunch of laps in that race. He's in the optimal lineup. You needed Kurt Busch to win the tournament. So could he do it again at a track that's very similar? Yeah, I don't see why not. And then even in the first race, Eric Almirola started in second, and everyone expected Ryan Blaney to lead all the early laps, but no, Almirola took the lead from second place. So I don't think it's completely outlandish to say Kurt Busch gets out front and leads early. That'll kill the Logano chalk. Absolutely kill it. So I don't hate Kurt Busch this week. I don't think it's like a bad option. And if you want to play a bunch of chalky plays, if you're playing, you don't play Logano and Kurt Busch in the same lineup. But if you want to play like chalk, like Harvick, Hamlin, Jones, and then just throw in Kurt Busch, I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I don't think it's a bad option here. Up next we have Eric Almirola at 7,400 on DraftKings, 9,800 on FanDuel, starting 5th. So Almirola, I'm not as big on. I mean, last week I did say in my video, like I just said about Kurt Busch, yeah, he could get out front in the laps. I don't see, it's not like completely out of the realm possibility, and he did, and you needed him to win the tournament in the first Pocono race. But this one he starts 5th. I don't expect him to get through 2 lanes of cars to get to the front and to really be like a massive lap leader here. I mean, I guess he hangs around top 5 all day. That's good, but I mean, I don't really think any of us expect Eric Almirola to like hang around in the top 5 for the entire race. So, doesn't have a really great average finish here. He's looked fast this year. He's been running pretty well. Let me go look at his last 5 races. He has an average finish of 7.5 in the last 5, an average running position of 11.25, which is really good, especially for his salary. It's just he starts 5th. If he was starting like 8th or 9th, I think that'd be a different story. And Almirola is going to be low owned, and I'm not saying just the upside feels limited of Eric Almirola. Like that race of Pocono was like the first race in a while where we saw Eric Almirola lead a bunch of laps. If he was starting second again, I think that would be something to like, okay. Or on the pole or second or whatever. But like, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I don't love it. I'd rather play Kurt Busch in all honesty. I think he's got more potential to lead the laps. Next, we have Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Wrecked both races. He's not been very good here or any of these types of tracks. 24th best average finish at flat tracks, 24th best average finish at shallow tracks, 25th at super speedways, and that was in better equipment than he's in this year. I just don't think he's a great play. I mean, yeah, he's got wasted from the left side, but he's got an average finish of 17.2 in the last 5 and an average position of 17.6. So Stenhouse doesn't feel like a guy I really want to go to. I mean, yeah, I know he starts 24th, and people are probably going to be like, ooh, he starts 24th, and you look at all the other guys in the range, 17th, 5th, 2nd, and 13th, like, you're going to be like, oh, I'll play Ricky Stenhouse, but I don't see the upside for him. He just hasn't been good here or at any of these types of tracks. Same thing as Pocono last week. I didn't want to play him last week either because of the same reason. He's just not good there. Up next we have Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is an interesting one for me. 7,000 on DraftKings and FanDuel. He starts 17th. Bubba Wallace last year finished 3rd in this race. And like it was a legit 3rd. It wasn't like a fuel mileage or like a late or like he stayed on a pit stop at the end. No, he raced up in the top 5 to 10 the entire race. So Bubba has the potential here. He's shown the ceiling here. And I gotta go, read some more articles and stuff to really find out what I think the ownership of Bubba Wallace is going to be, if I think he's going to be high owned or low owned. But if I think Bubba Wallace is going to be low owned, I think he's a good play because I think he has the ceiling starting 17th. And I think people are probably just going to play Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 24 for 200 more. The thing is, if everyone starts talking about, oh, Bubba Wallace finished 3rd, Bubba Wallace finished 3rd, Bubba Wallace finished 3rd, it's going to drive his ownership up, and people are going to start wanting to play Bubba Wallace, which I get. Then I don't know if I really want to play him anymore because I just don't think that, like, it's like a guaranteed ceiling. Like, it's not something like, oh, Bubba Wallace, he's definitely going to finish in the top 5. Like, I mean, how often does Bubba Wallace finish inside the top 5 that's not a plate race? So, like, I just don't, it can happen, which is, I always look for ceiling to play in tournaments, especially when they're lower owned drivers, but I don't think the ceiling's really there. I mean, I don't think the ceiling's like, oh, he's got a really high chance to hit it again. Let's look at his last 5 races as well. He's got an average finish of 17.4 and an average position of 17.6. So that's right where he starts. So, like, it's not like Bubba Wallace has been running absolutely great or anything. But, like, yeah, so if he's low owned, he's someone I want to play. If he's going to be higher owned, I'm not going to be looking to play Bubba Wallace. Next, we have Ty Dillon starting 29th. At 6,800 on DraftKings, 5,000 on FanDuel. He's just still too expensive for me on DraftKings. I mean, I know he starts 29th, and he does have the 18th best average finish here, which isn't bad. But, like, this year, he has not been fast. He has an average finish in the last 5 races of 25.6 and average position of 24.6. I think that's more than likely than him finishing 18th, if I'm being completely honest. So I just don't, I mean, if he was, like, 6,000, 6,300, then that's a different story, but he just has not been running well. Next, we have Austin Dillon at 6,700 on DraftKings, 7,200 on FanDuel. He starts 16th. I think Dillon's a fine play again. He has 18th best average position at Indianapolis. I feel like this is something I say every single video at this point. Austin Dillon's going to be low owned, and he has a ton of and he has upside to do well. And does he really ever hit that upside? He hasn't since, like, Charlotte, I think. So, that's the problem for me with Austin Dillon. It's like earlier, right after Corona hit, or right after we came back from Corona, Austin Dillon was running really well, like a top 10 car, like every single race. And I was like, all right, maybe Austin Dillon's, finally turned the corner. RCR's looking good. But in the past few races, he has not looked as well, especially at Pocono, a track that's very similar to Indianapolis last week. He did not look too great. So I don't think that Austin Dillon is necessarily like a lock button for a lower owned guy. I don't know. But I mean, if you have to play guys in the 6K range, which you're going to have to, he's a fine play. And I think Custer is going to be chalk. And I know Priest is 5,800. I think he's going to be chalk too. Next, we have Chris Buescher. Here's another low-owned guy I think might be fine. 6,500 on DraftKings, 7,500 on FanDuel. Yeah, his numbers don't look great in Indianapolis or anything, or this year or anything, but he's still Chris Buescher. He's in good equipment, and if he can get up, he's shown the top 10 upside that he has this year in a few races. So I think that could happen. He's not anyone I'm like, oh my god, what a great play. But if Dillon's going to be chalky, if Custer's going to be chalky, I mean, just move up $200 to Chris Buescher if you want to get some leverage on the field. I don't hate it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying you should play him in one line if you're doing a single entry or a 3-max, but I think he's okay. I think he's an okay guy to throw in some tournament laps. Ross Chastain, don't play Ross Chastain. He's not in a good car. Temper your expectations for Ross Chastain. Yeah, he's just not a good car. 6,400. I mean, his car, that's the 77 car that, like, Reed Sorensen drove, James Davison drove last week. Like, it should be priced down here in the 5K range, not 6,400. Like, I know he's a better driver than those guys, but the car isn't. So, starting 32nd, I mean, yeah, you could probably get, like, 28th or something, but that's just not really what we're looking for. All right, Cole Custer is actually someone I really like this week at 6,300 on DraftKings, 6,600 on FanDuel, and he starts 30th. Cole Custer ran really well last week at Pocono. I mean, I said that in my video that Pocono was a really good track for him in the Xfinity Series, and I was like, that'll probably carry over to here. Because they're very similar tracks. He's a driver that I think he started out the season really rough, but I think he's slowly turning it around, and I can see him having another top 20, maybe even a top 15 here. I mean, in the last 5 races, he has not been as bad as he was earlier this year. 20.6 average finish, 21.4 average position. I mean, like a few weeks ago, that was like 24. So it's just he's been improving steadily, and last week 2 top 20s. So I like Cole Custer. I think he's a good play. I don't know how much ownership he's going to get. I expect probably in these like cheap guys, he's going to be the second highest owned just because he starts 30th. But I don't think he's going to be like too highly owned. I think Ryan Preece will probably get the most ownership here. Daniel Suarez, don't play Suarez. How many times do I gotta say it? Ryan Newman's only 5,900 on DraftKings. I know he starts 14th, but Newman's been pretty decent here. He's got 10th best average finish at Indianapolis, and I know he has a win here in his career, earlier in his career. So I know he's got the upside for Indianapolis. The last 5 races haven't been like fantastic for him. An average finish of 14.75, an average position of 15.5. But like Newman at Indianapolis, I mean, yeah, he can get a top 10 for sure. And if he gets a top 10 at 5,900, that's going to be a great value play. So I definitely like my fair share of Newman. I'm going to be interested to play Newman, especially if Custer and Preece are getting a ton of ownership. I think Newman's going to be a really good pivot because, I mean, he is a better driver in both of them, and he is in much better equipment in both. Well, he's not in much better equipment than Custer, actually. I'm going to take that back. But, like, he's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just, he's got top 10 upside. So, and I don't think the other guys do. I think Cole Custer and Preece have top 20 upside, but top 10 upside's not there, and that's a lot of points, especially if Custer and Preece don't finish inside the top 20, that could be the winning play right there. Ryan Preece, 5,800 on DraftKings, 5,500 on FanDuel, starting 36. Yeah, he's going to be chalky. He's a 16th place finisher last year, so that's really good. In his last 5 races, Ryan Preece has an average finish of 24.2 and an average position of 21.6, so that's fine. I mean, he's going to be chalky. He'll probably get a top 25 for sure. Top 20 could happen. So, I think Preece is fine. Everyone's going to want to play Ryan Preece. I don't hate him. Michael McDowell, starting 27th at 5,700 on DraftKings and 5,500 on FanDuel. Isn't an awful play. He's actually got the 18th best average finish at Indianapolis, so I think he's going to be sneaky. I think people, again, are going to want to play Ryan Preece. And I think Michael McDowell is a valid pivot off him. $100 less and pretty much the same amount of equipment. Maybe Preece is a little bit better, but not like by that much. And he's over with more than the amount of race that Ryan Preece has run in Indy in the Cup Series. McDowell has done pretty well here. And he has a good average finish on the year. I mean, yeah, he wrecked out at Pocono last week, but in the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 15.25 and an average position of 18.75. So, and McDowell, he's 5,700, and I don't think people are going to play him because everyone this week's going to be talking about Ryan Preece, 36, starts 36. Yeah, but Michael McDowell, in my opinion, has more of a chance to finish inside the top 20, even maybe inside the top 15. This is an interesting sneaky play for me is Michael McDowell. I'm actually really interested in playing him this week. And then we got 2 more to talk about. Corey LaJoie, 5,500 on DraftKings, 4,800 on FanDuel, starts 31st, finished 8th in the second Pocono race. Like, where did that come from? But actually, Corey LaJoie's been running pretty decently this year. It started out a little bit rough, but recently he's been running better. He has an average finish of 23.6 in the last 5 and an average position of 23 in the last 5. So I don't think, again, I think people are just going to play Preece. I think LaJoie might go under owned. So if Corey LaJoie gets a top 25, he could be someone that is, like, interesting to play. I mean, honestly, there's so many possibilities for me seeing Corey LaJoie, Michael McDowell, and Ryan Newman, at least one of them outscoring Ryan Preece. I mean, there's just so many opportunities for that to happen. And there's a legit argument to be made if you're playing tournaments, just fade Ryan Preece and just split up your ownership between those 3 and hope that one of them outscores Preece, which I'm not saying it's going to happen. Preece definitely has the most likely chance to score the most points just because of his starting spot, but some of these guys, I mean, Corey LaJoie is 5 spots up, and he has similar place finishing upside as Preece. McDowell has way higher finishing upside than Preece, and Newman has, even way higher finishing upside than Preece. So I think all these guys are in play. I think they're all in play. I'll probably match ownership on the field for Ryan Preece, if I'm being completely honest, and I'll probably go a little bit over on the other 3. John Nemechek at 5,400. On DraftKings, starting 19th. I'm just not interested in playing him starting 19th. He's not going to advance any spots, more than likely, and if he does, it'll just be a few. In the last 5 races, an average finish of 22nd, an average position of 21.8. So I just don't expect John or Nemechek to really be someone that gets you a ton of points. And then the rest of these guys, Hill, Balicki, McLeod, Yaley, Half, Smithley, Poole, Gase, don't play him. Just don't play him. Just really don't play him. If you're going to play one, I guess McLeod starting 40th, but no, don't play him. Alright, that's really all I've got for this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, I'll put it in the description below. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, I'll put it in the description below. Hope this was good information for you guys, and I hope you guys have a really good weekend, good 4th of July weekend, have fun, and maybe we'll make some money this weekend. So, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.